All those in favor of Article 3 is read and presented, please indicate. Thank you. Those opposed? Article 3 is approved as presented. Bob.
All right, I would like to make a motion to move Article 21 up ahead of Article 4.
Okay, we have a motion to move Article 21 up to this time before Article 4 for discussion. Could I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Any question or discussion on that motion? Okay, the motion is to move Article 21 up to be voted on next in the agenda. All those in favor of doing that, please indicate by raising your green card. Thank you. Those opposed? Thank you. You have approved moving to Article 21. And Article 21 says, shall the town vote to enact the Town of Greenwood noise ordinance? Copies have been available at the Greenwood Town office. It is a citizen initiative, and the estimated cost for equipment and training would be $5,000. Unknown any amount for payroll costs. It is unknown how many complaints the codes enforcement officer will be responding to annually. Could I have a motion on Article 21? I make a motion.
That's a negative motion.
I have to have a motion in favor, and then you can defeat it if that's your wish. I just have to have a motion to approve the article. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve Article 21. Now we can discuss it, and I would entertain any discussion at this time.
I have to get a Bible for that.
Yes, okay.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. My name is John Polka. I'm a resident of Greenwood. I'm one of the 5 volunteers on your planning board. I also am the vice chairman. I want to put a disclosure out there. What I'm about to put out now is not, I am not speaking for the planning board. I am speaking for myself. As an engineer, before I voted on this, I had to, in good conscience, make sure that there was a big support here from Mount Abram. There's a lot going on Facebook about Mount Abram. And that, in good conscience, I did some research to make sure that the town wasn't putting any unnecessary burdens on Mount Abram or any other business for that sake. So, fortunately, I didn't have time to do a Ross Perot on you with charts and pie charts and stuff like that, so you're just going to have to listen to me talk for here for a few minutes. First of all, I've been approached a couple times about this, and everybody's talking about 45 dB, 45 dB, 45 dB. I'm here to tell you 45 dB means nothing. 45 dB is like saying it's hot outside. When you say it's 212 degrees Fahrenheit, then you said something. So, typically in sound, there's a capital A that goes on at the end of it. It's very important for this discussion. I know I'm going to give some stuff to you, some of you folks are just going to, and I'm probably going to do it to myself. Your eyes are going to roll back in the back of your head and like, when is he done? It'll get there. So, that A means it's A-weighted decibels. It's a measure of sound level that takes into account how the human ear perceives loudness at different frequencies. The ear, again, I could bore you folks with stuff that would definitely put you to sleep. So now we're going to quickly talk about sound attenuation. Sound attenuation is covered by the inverse square law. I had 2 paragraphs here. Now amount of people here, I'm not going to go into it. But what that says is, according to the inverse square law, it can be shown that for each doubling of distance from a point source, this is me, point source, the sound pressure level decreases by approximately 6 dB. So, I see 2 of the owners here from Mount Abram. I am not picking on Mount Abram. After I did my analysis, you're going to find out that this, in my opinion, this ordinance does not impact Mount Abram. So, everybody was throwing around 45 dBA. That's measured at 3 feet, okay? Now, let's see, Rick and Sue, is it okay I mentioned you by name? Lucy Camp? You're okay with that? Oh, no, it's because it's important for what I want to share here. So, I found some online, in my old line of work, on something controversial, we would have two engineers of the same discipline do an analysis, and then we get together and then make sure, like, everybody agrees 1 + 1 is 2. And like, if somebody came back 1 + 1 is 3, we had to find out why there was such a big disparity. With that said, I used 2 online calculators. 45D, so my swag, okay, I gotta give you perspective. If you come out of the side entrance at Loose Boots, and then you go down, and you stop at the ramp, and you face the solar fields, to your left is the Luthi camp. To the right is now Jeff McAvoy, is it? Okay. My swag is, and I'm sure they've walked it more times than I've had hot meals, that it's if not 1,000 feet or more to the Luthi's camp from Loose Boots. That 45 dBA at the Luthi camp is minus 5.5 dBA, which in a sense, again, tautologies, you're not going to hear anything if somebody's talking. Now, I went to the OSHA website to look for tables of sound levels. Here's what, and Mount Abrams' concern was about live music. So the closest thing I could find, and OSHA linked me to 3M, which is a respectable company that makes PPE, ear protection equipment. They listed a disco nightclub measured at 3 feet is 100 dBA. So I cranked that 100 dBA in my 2 calculators. At 1,000 feet, at the Luthi's house, the measurement is 49.5 dBA. Now, that doesn't take into account, that was like 0 attenuation of the structure. Now, the current structure at Mount Abram is made by rub building, and the structure, the fabric, is covered in a PVC fabric. I Googled what I could find on a PVC fabric. Anywhere, depending on the material, attenuates sound from 12 to 15 dB. So let's just say the tent's old, it's thin, it's worn out, it's half that. If I take 6 dB of attenuation, and I subtract that from that 49.5, it is now 43.5 dB. It is below, the ordinance says at nighttime, 45 dBA. So on the main side, so Mount Abram has, in my opinion, well, we can break it down into 2 things related to this ordinance. So main side, I don't think Mount Abram has, in my opinion, doesn't have a problem. We'll meet this ordinance. Oh, also what I was read about was because of the snowmaking equipment. The best I could find on snowmaking equipment, fortunately the compressors run off of diesel, and diesel just run or just like, to me, just a steady state noise. Again, I refer back to that chart. Diesel engine in the crew cab measures 84 to 89 dBA. I took the larger number and I rounded it up to 90. My little calculator told me at the Luthi's house, 29.2 dBA. And I can tell you this as personal experience, my wife and I had to camp 6 houses from the driveway at Mount Abram. When we would see the lights on the mountain and our windows and doors were closed, we could barely hear the snowmaking, the compressors. So, just going to beat one more thing to death. Eventually, I just want to point something out to you folks to help you understand. A material sound transmission class, STC, rating informs you on how much noise it can effectively block. So, here's most people at your house. 2 sheets of 1/2-inch drywall separated by studs, and typically your interior studs are 2x4s, improves the STC roughly of 33, which may struggle to mute a normal conversation. But here's the important thing. If right now that rub tent was replaced with 2x4s, 2 sheet of 1/2-inch drywall on either side, there's an attenuation value of 33 dB. Add that or subtract that from that 49, we're down to like in the teens dBA. So again, in my opinion, just my opinion, I'm not speaking for the planning board, there's not an issue. Now, another thing, I was approached by several people as we were out walking our dog, that the ordinance, I've been told, I can't use my lawnmower, I can't run my emergency generator. And the people that I've talked to, I asked, I said, so where did you get that information? They said Facebook. I said, did you read the ordinance? They said no. And if all you folks have a copy of the proposed ordinance, on page 3, exclusions. Noise from domestic power limited to power saws, sanders, grinders, lawn, garden tools, lawnmowers, snow blowers, tractors. So that negates that argument that you can't cut your grass anymore because of this. Well, I wouldn't mind being able to use that as an excuse not to do it. So maybe I should vote against this. And then, down at the bottom, the use of generators in emergency situations on a temporary basis. So that negates, that's why I feel comfortable voting for this noise ordinance. Now we'll split Mount Abram in the second part, the west side. I'll assume, I'll take it on that when Mount Abram transitioned west side to a bike park and an outdoor entertainment thing, that it went through the planning board process. And I wasn't on the planning board at that time, but they got planning board approval, and it went through all the wickets from your planning board to approve that. So, and I'm sure during that process, it must have come up that they presented it, they were going to have bands and what have you, and live music. And once that got approved, that, and I know a couple of the owners, I feel, they're ethical, they're successful businessmen, that they would have followed the process, that after they got planning board approval, they went and got building permit for the stage, for that Connex box that they used for storage. I have no doubt that they did everything that they were supposed to do. And then we get back to that 1,000 feet. One of the closest houses is across the street, well over 1,000 feet away. And what supports that is there's no attenuation, but there's just distance. Going up Powell Hill Road, there's a house right next to it, but they have trees in the way, and trees attenuate sound, so those people don't have an issue. So now we're going to get to, here's the part where as a planning board member, why I support this ordinance. And a couple of people that I've talked to, well, I think it was like 5 people that approached me. 4 of the 5 people were not aware that Greenwood does not have zoning. What's not zoning? We do not have commercial and residential. Here's why I support this. You could say, here's what can happen. Your home, somebody can open up a commercial business next to you, and you're like, and you don't have this ordinance, you're going to come see, well, you're going to call the code enforcement office. So-and-so is making a lot of noise during the day. Code enforcement's going to give you the Alfred E. Newman. Well, I have a noise ordinance. And you're going to go, I'm going to take it up a level. You're going to go to Kim. Kim's going to be very, not that code enforcement will be empathetic, but Kim will be empathetic. Love to help you, but we don't have anything on the books, and she's going to remind you that the town voted down the noise ordinance. Then you're going to go, I'm going to go see the select people. Select people, work with these 3 individuals. They're going to be more empathetic than Kim, if that's humanly possible. And they're going to love to help you, and they're going to remind you that and why I say that, it could be something as designed as somebody like, oh, Mount Abram needs a dog kennel business while all the people are skiing. And so you got to ask yourself, and I'll finish up here real quick. In my own line of work, we use this risk matrix. You have a likelihood of an event and the impact. Now, is it possible that somebody could put a dog kennel next to you and for all during the day you've got 20 basset hounds yelping? It's possible. The likelihood may be low, but the possibility is there. So that's why I'm going to ask you folks to really consider, just remember that there's no zoning. And so I imagine there's several Navy veterans in here. There's a saying in the Navy, pick your rate, pick your fate. And what do I mean by that? So you buy a property and there's an empty lot, but you build your dream home. Somebody can come along after that and put in a noisy commercial business, and there goes your peace and quiet that you've worked and saved all your life for. Now, the flip side of that is, because I had a conversation with a business owner the other day, he has an empty lot next to him. He goes, well, what about me? I said, in my opinion, if somebody builds a home next to your noisy business, shame on them. And it's just like, when you looked at this property, were you not aware that there was this person that had this noisy business? And I don't want to mention it because anyway, but you get my point. It's just like, that's really all I have to say about it. I could go, I don't want to ramble on and on, but like I said, I don't believe, in my opinion, I don't believe this ordinance impacts our local businesses. That's all. Oh, and before I forget, since we're in the Legion Hall, and next weekend's Memorial Day, I want to thank all the veterans in the room, all those folks who go to DD 214. And remember, next weekend is Memorial Day, and we honor the people who paid the ultimate price defending this great republic of ours. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you. Very well said. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, Bobby Wicking. We got a paragraph here that says that housing development, and then turns around and talks about putting in a business, and it has two different zoning numbers thrown in there. How can we say we don't have a zone in our town when these can be talked about? No answer?
No, Greenwood does not, I'd have to go,
I think maybe somebody better really check that out, because a long time ago, I talked to, you probably don't know him, but John Gucci. He told me that I couldn't do something on my property because it was considered a business, and that was not zoned as a business area. Now, either John Gucci, God rest his soul, is a liar, or somebody has revamped.
Oh, I can answer that,
Yeah.
okay? Greenwood does not have any zones in town where someone cannot put in a commercial venture. There is a site plan review process, so if a residential place exists, it has to go through the site plan review ordinance, site plan review process in order to put in a commercial, but there is no space. We don't have, like, you can't do that in the village, or you can't do that in such and such a place. There are no zones that are strictly residential or strictly commercial.
That's all Mr. Gucci told me.
What section of the ordinance are you referring to?
And are you looking at the noise control ordinance or the land use ordinance that we haven't gotten to yet?
That's the land use.
Okay, we're not there yet.
That'll be the next ordinance that we deal with.
Any further questions? Yes, sir.
Mechanical variant comment, and thank you for your research on that. It seems as though possibly we have the cart in front of the horse. We have no enforcement. Follow me on this. State police, no enforcement. County, no enforcement. Just like the fireworks ordinance, they're not going to come out here. They publicly said it. So unless we have town police, which we do not, or town constable, which we do not, we have no enforcement of this ordinance. Who's going to go out there with a meter and check all these things? And then what are they going to do? Shame on you. There's no enforcement. We're going down a dead-end road, moot point.
Second
I
that.
can speak to that. I'm the town's code enforcement officer.
Do you write tickets?
Well, there are enforcement provisions in the codes, but the point I was going to make in my comments is just that. We would have to create a noise police under the code enforcement department, which is going to be very costly, and all these people are going to do is sit and wait for the phone to ring, I don't know what, maybe 10 times a year. And with the projected tax increases, I just cannot see adding additional costs to the town's payroll to try and enforce this ordinance. And there's no point in enacting an ordinance unless you have the mechanism to enforce it. So, I'm not done with my comments. I have a few other thoughts, but when it's my turn, I'll bring that up. But I just want to piggyback you, Ken, and say, we just can't do it.
This one was first, I think. No, you first. Okay.
President Greenwood, my name's Ann. I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. I do have something to say, and I'd like to give some context to the current social media blitz surrounding the proposed noise ordinance. Especially since those responsible for the blitz don't know the backstory, why we're here today. Unfortunately, the narrative has shifted toward Mount Abram, and that was not the intent behind the original concern. I have a personal connection to Mount Abram. I learned to ski there in the 60s. I was, skied there when the lodge was there. Everybody knows the lodge. My older brother worked for the ski school and ski patrol. I skied there as a teen with friends. We skied as a family at Mount Abram. I understand the family friendliness and sense of community that Mount Abram provides here. Also, a major employer. Here's some more context. This all began with a very specific and ongoing issue of more than 2 years involving residential generator use. The hope was to find a reasonable solution that would protect the quality of life for those directly impacted. It was never meant to affect local businesses like Mount Abram or other businesses. I attended many selectmen's meetings with other residents of my road over 2 years. It was requested by the select board members, those people right here, that I bring them examples of noise ordinances from other towns. I provided the requested information. Those of us who brought the issue forward did so with the understanding that the examples provided would serve only as a framework to guide the creation of a customized ordinance that would take into account businesses like Mount Abram and others. It was never the intent for the ordinance to be presented as strictly as it has been outlined in this draft. The failure of this draft, I believe, lies with the town officials' inability to rework and customize the ordinance to suit the needs, present and future, of residents of the town. This ordinance was, for the most part, taken word for word from a noise control ordinance from a town without a major business in it. I don't have a law degree. I don't read legal documents. I'm not a council member. I don't want to be a council member. This is the first town meeting I've ever attended. But I am a resident of the town who asked for assistance and guidance with an issue from the council members. I believe officials who have taken on a responsibility to represent the citizens of the town in a matter such as this should have been able to distinguish the needs of Greenwood from another town, and if they don't have that ability, then they should seek legal counsel.
Yes, sir.
I have something to add here on this noise ordinance. I live at 92 Sheepskin Bog Road, right next to the problem, okay? that was created. We've been there 40 years, Ann and I. 40 years, blood, sweat, and tears, okay? That woman right there didn't want to come here today. You know why? Because she's very shocked. She was a 40-year RN, and if she was taking care of you in the hospital post-op, you were in good hands. You weren't going to die on her watch, okay? And I'm not going to let this trash come in and bring down the town of Greenwood. Because when we moved there 40 years ago, Bernie Brooks, who was a gentle, kind man, lived in that farmhouse. His mother was there. They had some steer. We thought it was kind of homey. She needed a place to live within traveling distance of the hospital in Norway. She's on call. And to add to that, a lot of times when she was on call, I had to plow the road out to get her out of the driveway so she could make it down into the hospital. So this is something that happened over the years, that slowly the Brooks farm had been taken over by relatives. After Bernie died, I went to work one morning and there's people on lawn chairs and fires are going and camp tents set up, and then all of a sudden, a few weeks later, this campers moving in, and I got a guy down to the end of my driveway running a camper and a generator. Marched into town with a rooster under his arm, a camper and a generator. Is that what we're going to have in this town? Are we going to allow you board members should be ashamed? And Ken, you misled and you mishandled the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to tell it right out like it is. Okay, that woman right there tried. She tried to get you to make some sense of this without it coming to this, where everybody has to take time out of their day, out of a Saturday, which we all want to be somewhere else. Whether it's planting a garden, fishing. I walked down here today. I walked from Row Hill. Went down through past Sheepskin Bog. One generator was running. One little generator was running there. These guys have since, I don't know if what your connection is with them, Kim, but it seems like you're showing favoritism here. And you control, whatever the hell you call this person that is on the payroll that doesn't want to do her job, get rid of her. Because anybody that can't do his job, what's your problem? I don't think I'm disrespectful. I've been disrespectful.
This is not.
I think it's time to move on.
Yeah, why don't you move on, pal? Okay, you want someone to run the generator in front of your house? Okay, 200 feet from your house?
Sir, I need to ask you to sit and be quiet.
I've got something to say. I have a right to speak here. Who wants to tell me to sit? Who wants to tell me to sit? Who are you?
I'm David Goodwin, and I live in the city, and it's time for you to start.
I don't think it is.
It's time for you to start.
I did not come here to shut my mouth and let somebody else run this town.
You've been
Would you two take your
the last
opinion outside, please?
Everybody's tired of it.
There's a way to do it respectfully.
Take it outside.
Respectfully. All right, well, anyways, I don't see Tucker Carlson here because I feel that, to be bushwhacked by Channel 13 like I was in my yard Monday afternoon. Who sent Channel 13 to my house? Excuse me?
We don't get degrees, that's why we're here. We had to come to a town
Well, I'm
meeting
not
to
gonna-
get public knowledge to know what's going on.
I'm not
You
gonna-
come in here all hot, heated like an idiot.
I don't
Sit
think
here
so.
and talk to the only person.
I don't think I'm being I think this is this whole thing started because someone was rude. Somebody fired up the generator and refused to shut it down, whether it bothered somebody or not.
Can somebody help me take this gentleman out, please?
Vern has asked you to sit. He has asked you.
Hey, you are not possibly around. Neither is Mr. Good. What his name is.
I think it's time for you to go. You're given time to speak. You've spoken. Now be quiet.
Who are you?
I live just down the street from you.
Top of the road, top of the road.
The mediator of this meeting has asked you to sit, sir.
I do have a noise problem, but not enough that I'm gonna do something like this. to resolve
Something
it.
like this? Something like this? Is it?
Cam, what's the protocol
How
here?
you discuss?
Charlie, you've spoken long enough. That's enough. You've disrespected people. That's enough.
I don't think it's been disrespectful at all.
Yes.
I've been disrespectful. That woman right there has been disrespectful.
She was
Okay?
respectful.
I'm being honest about this situation. Anybody want to be honest? You want the truth? You want the facts? You want this? You want the merits of this? Okay? No.
Let's call it a day. Call it a day.
Good luck to anybody that has this problem in the future. And, you know, the way, if the town of Greenwood is gonna, we got trash moving in.
Oh, yeah.
We got people with junk, parking campers and trash all over the roads, and it looks bad.
That's
Now,
beyond.
Carthage,
that's-
if you listen to TOS, Carthage was a joke, made a joke of it.
Complaining about noise, not trash.
That's a whole different subject.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
You're out of order, sir.
Thank you for letting me speak, Your Majesty.
That's not me. Next question. Yes, sir.
Hi, Travis York, resident of Greenwood. It's a hard act to follow, but I'll keep it down. To the gentleman at the end, I didn't catch your name, engineering expert there.
I'm not
Appreciate
an
your
expert.
input. No, I appreciate your input. There was a lot of information for a lot of people. I think what also needed to be said, and I know, you know, he's probably somebody I'd love to talk to, because our profession probably cross at some point. But some of the math, some of the numbers you threw out might be misleading to the average person. First of all, most people probably don't have 1,000 feet to work with their properties, number one. Number two, you know, there's other things in there that dictate those decibel levels and that appearance sound level that you were representing. Like, you know, natural standing waves, the fact that that's probably a line of sight math that site is coming up with, so it's not taking into account natural resonance points and things of that nature. But for the average person, and I'm probably talking at 80 decibels right now, if you are standing 6 feet away, pretty close. You know, so I think that the numbers, you know, I'm all about, I think, decent neighbors, knowing your neighbors, talking to your neighbors, figuring stuff out. If you're gonna have a noisy business, it's great. You know, help your neighbor attenuate, right? That's a word you use. That's important. And there's ways to do that. But I don't know where these numbers came from, but they're not realistic for the average lot size, especially in town. And I do recognize that we don't have zoning per se for commercial as opposed to residential. But once again, I think that before we use a bunch of engineering math and numbers and terminology, we probably ought to present this in a better way, better numbers. I mean, for instance, OSHA requires an 8-hour time-weighted average. Now, that probably doesn't mean much to too many people, but most people work. 90 decibels at the person. And that's extremely noisy. I mean, most of us probably don't even wear hearing aid or are not provided that hearing protection at our businesses because we don't meet those requirements. So these are just some things to think about when we're making ordinances that are going to affect everybody and negatively ultimately, because a 15-minute average is not going to be in anybody's favor. I bet the people's at night across the street from my swamp, I'm pushing 70. So I just wanted to add that, but I do appreciate the input that the gentleman started off with. I think it's important to think about those things, but we have to think about the whole thing. Thank you.
Mr. Milliak.
Moderator, I would like to propose that we move the question.
Wait, I had some remarks I wanted to make as the code enforcement officer.
I will draw it.
I'm Ann Cuoca. I'm the town's new code enforcement officer. I started this job in mid-December. All of this that led up to this ordinance occurred before my time. But I understand what has happened. It's a generator issue. And I sympathize with the noise from a generator. If you had to listen to it 24 hours a day, that would really get on your nerves. However, enforcement of this particular ordinance that has been drafted, as we talked about, creates a lot of enforcement problems. And in order to provide literally night and day, 365-day-a-year service for noise that might happen at any time would be extremely costly. I only work for the town part-time, so I'm certainly not going to be able to do it by myself. There would have to be a staff. So, and I think that that just isn't practical. So I want to talk about what is practical. And I think since this is a generator-specific issue, that the ordinance should be generator-specific as well. And I agree with you, sir, that there is quite a bit of what we would call off-grid living here in Greenwood. Whether it's by choice or by necessity, people are living in non-traditional housing and using generators, solar, whatever. There are a host of issues that go along with that, including septic and gray water and all sorts of things. And I think I want to work with the town to put together an ordinance that addresses all of those issues in one document that isn't going to have the unintended consequences that this ordinance is creating. So let's look at the whole picture and try to come up with something that resolves all of those issues, not just the generator noise issue. In the meantime, I will handle issues on a case-by-case basis. I think I can mediate between the parties. And once we have something that we can bring to the town that addresses everything, we will do that. But don't think that you're being ignored. I am not going to ignore this issue. It needs to be addressed, but it needs to be addressed in the bigger picture, the whole context. So that's all I have to say, and if you need me, you know where to find me.
Gentleman over there has something to say. John?
Yes. I've used a sound pressure meter before, back when I was a kid. I was in the car stereos, we went to all the competitions, 8-weighted decibel meter at 45 dB. Reacts different at different frequencies. A low frequency is super easy to get 45 dB. High frequency is very, very difficult. For instance, a bass drum, loud. Doesn't seem loud, but it does.
Slow dB.
Also, if you're on a lake, humidity affects how sound carries, and dB, the SLP of a meter. And let me see, humidity, temperature, there's so many things that can affect how a sound pressure meter works, that it's unfair to apply it to anything, really, because it's just too restrictive. That's it.
Yes, Marie? Can't hear you.
On the planning board for years, for 2 years selected. Could we just vote this down and have everybody come back with another, to redo this ordinance?
Is that a motion to end the discussion?
Yes.
It's been moved and seconded to end the discussion and go to the vote. All those in favor of ending the discussion? Thank you. Those opposed? We are going to the vote. The question is, shall the town vote to enact the Town of Greenwood noise ordinance? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your green card. All those opposed? Article 21 has failed.